Jacob, who always hurled verbal abuse at me and tried to control me while also cheating on me. While on a trip with his mistress, they both got into an accident. When I visited him, Jacob said something outrageous. My husband is so cold-hearted, he'll never take care of me now that I'm paralyzed from the waist down. Then Jacob confidently boasted, "Don't worry, Anna, I'll Isabella take care of both of us." The wike. Jacob turned to me. "Please, to take care of us, I'm counting on you two. Let Anna decide the interior. You just need to quietly do as we say. Jacob, you're tough on your wife. She's just a housekeeper." I felt a surge of intense anger rising within me. Take care of them, hun? How dare they ask that? When I broke my arm, he didn't even wash a single dish. Wait, why don't you ask your mistress? I'm Isabella, a 52-year-old housewife. I live with my husband, Jacob, and his son from a previous relationship, William. Jacob seemed hardworking and sincere when we were dating, but after we got married, he turned out to be a very domineering man. I was perplexed, but William, who lost his mother at a young age, adored me like his real mother. Jacob's close relationship with William was heartwarming, so I couldn't bring myself to cut ties and decided to wait and see, hoping Jacob would change someday. The first time I felt something was off was 2 years after we got married, when William entered 4th grade and I started having more free time. I thought about starting a job. Jacob, having attended a prestigious private university himself, had enrolled William in tutoring from kindergarten with the aim of getting him into a similar middle school. Many mothers in our circle were considering middle school entrance exams for their kids too. Inspired by them, I started working to fund their children's education. I wanted to connect with society again, feeling lonely just doing housework and parenting. Hey, some of my friends have started part-time jobs. Maybe I should send out my resume too. I could work at a supermarket and be back by the afternoon. When I brought this up to Jacob, after he returned from work, he unexpectedly flew into a rage. Are you saying I don't earn enough? That's not what I'm talking about. You're a manager, and you earn a good salary for someone in your 40s, and I appreciate that. I couldn't understand why Jacob was so upset. I tried to reason with him calmly, not letting his mood affect me. We can manage with just my salary for now. Yes, but if William wants to go to a college out of state or live on his own, we'll be stretched thin. He's planning to apply to my alma mater. You've told him a lot about it, but he might change his mind by the time he's a junior. Plus, we need to save for retirement. Jacob scowled, clearly displeased. You, a housewife, want to live in luxury? I already let you go to the salon and buy clothes. You're pretty much doing whatever you want. I'd do that with your permission. Jacob, and yes, I would like more financial freedom. Then Jacob looked at me suspiciously. Are you cheating on me? I'm not. I quickly retorted. The conversation was veering off course. We're talking about William's education fund. Besides, does it bother you that much if I work? I asked, genuinely curious. Jacob frowned, his lips forming a displeased lines. Of course it does. It makes it seem like I can't provide for the family, which is bad for my public image. This is what era are you living in? Nobody thinks like that anymore. It felt like he was stuck in a bygone era. I'm healthy and we don't have young kids, or family members needing care. Hearing other mothers starting jobs makes me envious. What happens in other houses is none of our business. Jacob raised his voice, crossed his arms, and looked down at me smirking. Besides, someone as slow as you couldn't possibly handle a job. You can't even do housework perfectly, let alone juggle it with a job. If I start working, of course, I'd expect you, Jacob, to share some of the household chores. Jacob then shouted, Wait, in Pershmers, I won't be able to relax even at home. How much do you want me to work? Are you a tyrant of a wife? I too plan to balance work with housework and parenting. But doing it all alone is hard. That's why I want you, Jacob, to help out, at least on weekends. The idea of making your husband do housework is wrong. Your job is to keep the house in order so your husband can focus on my work. You can't even do that perfectly, and now you want a job. What are you thinking? That's enough. Frustrated, I ended the conversation. It seemed like working outside the home was just a pipe dream. A few years later, while biking to the local supermarket, I swerved to avoid a can at a corner and crashed into a utility pole. My right arm throbbed with pain, so instead of shopping, I went to the clinic. I had fractured my arm, and the recovery was expected to take a month. William, now a high school senior, looked concerned when he saw my condition. Wow, that looks painful. I'll help out with the housework as much as I can. You shouldn't strain yourself. Aggie mate. Thanks, that's a big help. How is it? Jacob's reaction was unexpectedly harsh. He looked at my cast with annoyance and bluntly said, "You can still make my lunch, right? Hurry. I can't hold a knife with my dominant arm injured. Can you buy your lunch at the supermarket for a while? Breakfast will have to be bread for now." Jacob then became furiously red-faced. A housewife who can't clean or cook. If you can't take care of your husband, what's the point of you being here? I refused to support a freeloader. I was told not to move it too much by the doctor. "I'm sorry, can you bear with it for just a month?" I said apologetically, and finally, Eckert calmed down his anger. Lame. It would leave a bad taste to kick out an injured person. Be grateful for my kindness in keeping a useless burden like you around. His arrogant attitude was appalling, but I just smiled thinly and swallowed any retort. Jacob really did just keep me around, not even bothering to wash a single dish he used. With William's kind help, I managed until my cast was removed. Even when my mother called from back home, I kept quiet about my injury. "But your aunt passed away, didn't she?" "There are some things to take care of, so come home for a bit." "Yeah, but it's a 2-hour flight." "I'll make time to come home soon," I answered, and after my cast was removed, I went back to my parents' house under the pretense of wanting to see my mother's face. Seeing William, who was about to enter college, was studying hard every day. I did what I could to help him, like preparing light meals that wouldn't strain his stomach and gathering information about his desired universities. One day, just before a long weekend, Jacob came home from work and announced with a seemingly excited tone, "Man, I've got a business trip during the holiday." It's really busy and troublesome, honestly. It clicked in my mind. It must be a trip with his mistress. I had suspected this for months because his overtime had suddenly increased. He became overly concerned about his appearance, and his business trips out of town became more frequent. He even started taking his phone with him to the bathroom, which was unusual and tough. "Went to California, Washington, New York, but don't get your hopes up for any souvenirs or anything." Chica always became talkative when lying. He'd never brought back souvenirs from his trips. Choose from his trips before. I almost laughed as he eagerly packed his suits and shirts into his suitcase. I deliberately commented, "You seem pretty excited for a business trip. I'm playing golf with a client. He's a guy I really get along with. Looking forward to dining out too." "Oh, really? That's interesting." His blatant behavior was so irritating that after Jacob left, I spread a divorce paper on the dining table. Recently, while he was asleep, I had unlocked his phone using his fingerprint and confirmed his interactions with his mistress. "This structural unit's patient intellist and the only one for you. Wait to make sure your wife doesn't find out. Let's lie about a business trip and meet at a hotel to make love." Such texts, along with photos, I had sent to my phone, making it impossible for him to deny. However, with limited evidence and not wanting to upset William before his exams, I planned to gather more evidence, like pictures of them together, before confronting Jacob with divorce. With tidying up, I received a call from an unknown number on my cell phone. With suspicion, I answered, and it was from the emergency center at the local hospital. "Are you Mr. Jacob White's wife?" "Yes, I am. Your husband has been in a car accident and is seriously injured." I gasped. "His life is not in danger, but he needs emergency surgery. Can you come right away?" "Yes, I'll be there." It's surprised by my own reaction. I realized that even though my love for him had faded, I still cared. After gathering things like clothes and toiletries he would need for the hospital, I hurried to the emergency center and was immediately taken to see Jacob. He was barely conscious and didn't seem to recognize me. Blood was seeping through the gauze on his forehead, and one side of his face was swollen and dark red. Soon, a doctor appeared and told me shocking news. "The CT scan shows that your husband has damaged his spinal cord. Even with surgery, there's a high chance he'll be paralyzed from the waist down. Please proceed with the hospital admission process right away." "All right." As I stepped in the hallway, I noticed a police officer standing by. I wanted to ask about the accident details, but the person who was with Jacob had been taken to surgery, and both Jacob and the person he collided with weren't in a state to talk. When the officer was leaving, I boldly asked, "What about the person who is with him?" "It's of course," he on a tease. "A woman in her 30s. Just as I thought." Despite my suspicions, I felt a slight shock. It had to be his mistress. That night, Jacob underwent surgery to repair his spinal cord injury, though some functionality returned. returned, he was left with partial paralysis in his lower body. I took care of the hospital admission and surgery procedures, but after that, I couldn't bring myself to visit him and asked William to do it. However, there was a day when William couldn't go, so I packed Jacob's clothes in a bag and visited his hospital room. It had been a month since I last saw Jacob, and surprisingly, he looked cheerful, which was unexpected given his paralysis. He had started rehabilitation and might be discharged next month. That meant we had to remodel our house. Our home, a second-hand single-family house, had steps and narrow hallways, making it quite inconvenient for wheelchair access. Jacob would receive disability benefits, and he could switch to working from home, so money wasn't an issue. But the thought of caring for him weighed heavily on me. As with his injury, it seemed heartless to bring up divorce now. As I was about to leave, after just handing over his clothes, Chick invited me to the lounge. "Help me buy you a coffee as a thank you for coming." "No, that's all right. Don't be shy." Him offering to buy me coffee seemed so out of character that I wondered if he had become strange after hitting his head. But once we got to the lounge, the mystery was solved. In a deserted room, Jacob and a woman, also in a wheelchair, were waiting for us. "Anna, it's been a day. Just hopes I've missed you. I've been so busy with tests we hardly get to see each other." Jacob was overly affectionate, and I tightened my expression. So, this woman was his mistress. They must have crashed while on a date in the car. I watched with a disdainful look as they leaned forward and hugged each other. What was Jacob's intention in bringing me and his mistress together? "Jacob, you're lucky. You have a kind son. You'll be well taken care of after discharge." Anna sighed. "My husband is so cold-hearted, he'll never take care of me now that I'm paralyzed." Then Jacob confidently boasted, "Don't worry, Anna. Isabella will take care of both of us." Maya and Anna's eyes widened in shock. "Oh, right. Looking after one or two people is the same." Anna, convinced, asked me, "I'm asking too. And hey, make sure to remodel the room cutely while you're at it." I absolutely refuse to live in a tacky room. But you're right. Hey, let Anna decide the interior. Isabella's taste is the worst. You just need to quietly do as we say. "Jacob, you're tough on your wife." "Of course. She's just a housekeeper." I felt a surge of intense anger rising within me. "Take care of them, hun? How dare they ask that?" Bitch, when I broke my arm, he didn't even wash a single dish. "What? Why didn't you ask your mistress?" I coldly dismissed them, and Jacob and Nene stared at me in surprise. "Hey, what are you talking about? Anna's in a wheelchair too. It's impossible for her to take care of me." Jacob frowned, then seemed to have an idea. "My bad for not introducing you properly. Isabella, this is Anna, the manager's wife." "I know. It was nice to meet you. I'm Anna Brown." She greeted me with a sweet voice, twisting her body. "Are you misunderstanding something?" "I was just getting advice from Jacob, that's all." Jacob nodded in agreement. "I'm 17 years older than Anna. It's ridiculous to think she's my mistress. Anna likes older men, right? The manager is 3 years older than you." Jacob looked surprised. "I know quite a lot." "Well, yeah. She seems to like older men, but do I look like the kind of guy who'd go after his boss's wife?" Jacob's denial only made me look at him more coldly. "No, I know very well what kind of person you are," unaware of my disdainful expression. Jacob fervently continued his lies. "See, when the manager invited me to golf, I visited his house. Since then, I've been giving Anna advice on various things." "That's right. Jacob is so dependable. I ended up sharing various things with him, like troubles with mothers of my son's friends." "Oh, are you getting jealous?" "I'm sorry about that." Anna spread a malicious smile. "Interesting. In our 10 years of marriage, whenever I complained to you, I was yelled at, and when I confided my worries, you mocked me. That's because your issues were too trivial. I thought they weren't worth my attention." Jacob mumbled his excuses. "We just happened to meet on the street today. We had some time before the train arrived, so we decided to drive somewhere quiet to talk. Then, unfortunately, we got involved in this accident. Tough luck for us, huh?" I was almost impressed by how effortlessly he could spin such lies. However, Anna played along with a smile. "Really, yeah. We just wanted to have some coffee and talk, then this accident happened. But if I can be taken care of by Jacob's wife, I feel relieved." Anna sent a side glance my way. "Please don't make decisions on your own. I never said it, I would take care of you guys." I said sharply, and Anna let out a mocking laugh in a low voice. "But you take care of Jacob's son, right? You can care for a child not related by blood. Surely you'd be happy to take care of me, the wife of his boss? That's right. Isabella, for the past 10 years, I've been feeding you. As a way of returning the favor, you should take care of me, and of course, and Anna too. I was dumbfounded by their nonsensical logic and was left speechless. You're still insisting she's just someone you consult with. Won't be ridiculous? Even a middle schooler would come up with a better excuse. I glared at them and spat out. Why don't you just admit it? Admit that you've been having an affair? An affair? Where's your proof? Jacob's voice cracked in panic. He was flustered in an almost amusing way. Yeah, if you suspect our relationship, show us the proof. When I presented the explicit messages and photos of Jacob and Anna that seemed to be taken in bed, saved on my phone. Jacob turned pale. You snooping through my phone? That's insane. Even between spouses, there are things you just don't do. I don't want to be lectured by someone having an affair. While your son is studying hard for his exams, you're cheating with your boss's wife. That's the worst a father can get. Shut up. Don't act like a mother when you're not even related by blood. Jacob's words pierced my heart. Indeed, no matter how much I cared for William, I couldn't win against his blood-related father. Stinko. My hesitation in filing for divorce stemmed partly from the fear that young William might choose Jacob over me. As I bit my lip, the sound of a gurney echoed in the quiet hallway. A nurse pushed a bed into the room, stopping next to me, glancing at the person lying there. I let out a scream. Mr. Brown? Jacob also exclaimed in a dumbfounded voice. He hurriedly maneuvered his wheelchair towards us. Mr. Brown will come to pick you up in 30 minutes. Thank you. The nurse nodded to us and left the lounge. Then, using the bed's reclining feature, the mantra raised his upper body. I was surprised. I heard you had already been discharged, so I didn't expect to see you here at this time. Sorry for startling you. The manager laughed, shaking his shoulders. I had told Anna about it. I didn't hurt her run away, so I made sure she didn't tell Jacob. You had full-body bruising, right? Did they find anything else wrong since then? My condition worsened last night. Just to be safe, I was admitted to take another CT and REI. Wait, Mr. Brown was injured too? Jacob asked, puzzled. Anna looked uncomfortable. Didn't Jacob know from Anna? I wondered. I had heard from the police officer on the day of the accident. Jacob's severe injury was caused by crashing at high speed into a car that was stopped at a traffic signal. And I had received a call from the manager himself, the person he collided with. The manager was the one Jacob hit, and the woman in Jacob's passenger seat was the manager's wife. Anna, from Anna's reaction, it seemed the manager had come to visit her, and she had kept quiet about the fact that the collision involved the manager and that he was coming to the lounge tonight to talk with Jacob. Jacob hit my car at 93 miles per hour. You were unconscious and didn't realize it. What? I was conscious, so I knew. Anna said grumpily, causing Jacob to widen his eyes in shock. Then why didn't you tell me? I did tell you when the accident happened. I said, it's my husband's car. Not that. You could have told me the day before yesterday when we were here on a date, couldn't you? If I had spilled the beans to you, my husband said he'd demand $1 million in compensation for the affair. Anna snapped back, her previously sweet demeanor turning demonic as she raged. It was just a fling with you. I never intended to divorce my husband. But because of your mistake in causing the accident, my husband found out, and now my body is ruined. I'm still young, and my life is a mess now. Divorce confirmed? It's all your fault. How are you gonna make this right? Anna. Jacob looked at her with a terrified gaze. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. Go. I'll let you off the hook for alimony in divorcing Anna, but of course, I'll be billing you. Pay up $1 million. The manager spread a malicious smile across his face. And Jacob, your insurance was expired, wasn't it? You'll be compensating for Anna's and my medical expenses, and of course the BMW you wrecked, right? You're going to pay, right? I asked you to drive slowly, but you just had to show off at that speed. Dupent. A boss's wife is attracted to me. He just got carried away with himself. Any young and cute woman would have done for him, right? That's why he showed off and drove recklessly. It seemed I hit the nail on the head, as Jacob guiltily looked down. If you cared about her, you would have driven more carefully. And to top it off, asking me to take care of your mistress as well. That's a sick joke. Shut up. Jacob snapped at me, then hesitantly spoke to Anna. Anna, you're gonna divorce the manager, right? So there's no problem with being with me? He persisted even now. I said no. Bin. I'll just rent an apartment and live alone with the help of a caregiver after I'm discharged. I never want to see your face again after what you've done to me." Pointing her finger at me, she scoffed. "It's this guy, after all the nasty things he said to you, asks you to take care of him. How much more can you be humiliated? You're pathetic. Hey, Anna, bye. Don't contact me again." Having said her piece, "Jaka, you'll pay me alimony medical bills, and for the car, expect the bill after you're discharged." After the conversation, a nurse who had been waiting outside the lounge came in. As the manager's bed was wheeled away, disappearing around the corner, Jacob, with a red face of anger, burst out, "Damn her. She was so into me, but the moment I become paralyzed, she turns her back on me." He wheeled over and clung to my arm. "You'll take care of me, right? You're my wife, after all." I refuse. I pulled out divorce papers and a pen from my bag and slammed them on the table. I was going to wait until after the exams, but I can't stand it anymore. "Sign these now?" Jacob's eyes widened, then he said spitefully, "You're really gonna divorce me? I've taken care of you for 10 years, and this is how you act. That's just too selfish. Who's taking care of whom?" I confronted Jacob. "Do you remember what you said when I broke my leg? If you can't even take care of your husband, there's no point in you being here. I'm not supporting a freeloader. Be grateful for my kindness in keeping such a useless burden." Even thinking about it now, those were cruel words. I unleashed years of pent-up frustration on Jacob. "You said that, yet you never washed even a single plate you used. And now that you're paralyzed, you want me to take care of you? Don't joke." Jacob grimaced. "It was your carelessness that got you injured. I didn't need to step in." "Well, it's your carelessness that got you injured this time, so I guess I don't need to take care. Guess I don't need to take care of you either. Alright, fine. I'll sign okay." Jacob, in frustration, scribbled his signature on the divorce papers. "Don't come crying back to me for a remarriage later." Yay. "Willie, what's up? Visiting hours are almost over." I tilted my head at William, who had rushed into the lounge. Without responding, William ran up to Jacob and raised his voice unusually. "Dad, the money for my college entrance is gone. You know anything about it?" "Yeah, I used it," Jacob admitted nonchalantly, leaving me speechless. William's kind face turned to one of anger. "Seriously? It's messed up to take someone's savings. Did you by any chance squander it on your mistress?" I asked, incredulous, and Jacob readily admitted it. "Yeah, that's right. What's wrong with a parent using their child's money?" Both William and I stared at Jacob. "Do you even realize what you've done? I can do whatever I want. I'm the father, after all." Jacob's smirk sent a chill down my spine. "Besides, how are you gonna live without me? A stay-at-home mom? Who's gonna hire a 52-year-old woman?" "Dad, didn't you hear?" William said, a mix of astonishment and exasperation in his voice. "Mom just inherited $2 million from her aunt who passed away." "Wait. William, you spilled the beans too soon," I said with a laugh. "Well, that's the situation." "Oh, but I'll still be demanding alimony, so make sure you pay up." "Well, whatever. William, I'm counting on you to take care of me after I'm discharged." Jacob tried to hide his disarray and smiled at William. "Even after the divorce, the bond between father and son remains. You'll be taking care of me for the rest of my life." "No, wait. After you squandered my money, you have the nerve to ask me for help. What kind of nerve do you have?" William flashed a cold smile. "I'm going to a college out of state, so that's impossible." "No, you were supposed to go to my alma mater, right? I changed my course a long time ago. I tried to tell you, but you were too busy to listen, using work as an excuse." "Oh, wow, William, it was different. Jacob was too busy doting on his mistress." "Oh yeah, that's right. In the end, the family didn't matter at all." "That's not true," Jacob shouted in panic. "I've always cared for you all as best I could. Sure, I had an affair and squandered the savings on that woman, but you guys are what matters most. I worked hard at my job and always gave the paycheck to Isabella. That's expected. Stupid thing to brag about." William said firmly, "Well, we're at it. I've always hated how you treated Mom harshly since I was a kid." "What? Really?" "Of course. Isn't it obvious? Kids want their parents to get along. When I went to friends' houses, everyone would normally do the dishes and cook, but at our house, you were always bossing around. Mom loved me, even though we're not blood related, and I loved her. But why were you always so mean to her? Didn't you marry her because you loved her? I never understood that. William, I saved up my part-time job money instead of spending it, and you just used it like that and still expect me to take care of you. You can figure it out yourself. You lack too much awareness as a parent. Even your own son has had enough of you. Such a pitiful person. Leaving Jacob stunned in the lounge. Jacob, who had an affair with his boss's wife, was pressured into divorce by me and abandoned by William, ending up all alone. Furthermore, he had to pay alimony and medical bills to the manager as well as for the car. And repay William for his college fund. Repay all these debts at once. But Dickton, after being discharged, went to his boss's house to bow his head and begged to continue his job. Thanks to the manager's mercy, he was not demoted and started working from home, but the rumor of his affair with the manager's wife spread quickly. When he occasionally went to the office, he was bad-mouthed, and eventually felt so uncomfortable that he submitted his resignation. Having lost his job, Jacob, who initially garnered sympathy from relatives when he asked for money, soon became an outcast when they learned he had squandered William's college fund. Finally, his strict brother took him in, going to straighten out Jacob's character. Meanwhile, Anna, after being kicked out following her divorce, rented an apartment from a relative and started living alone. She reluctantly began a computer job and relied on a caregiver during the day, but her twisted personality caused conflict. After being refused by many, she ended up with only rude and harsh caregivers, leaving Anna scolded and crying every day. Having finally separated from Jacob, I used the inheritance from my aunt and the alimony from Anna for William's college fund. With the remaining money, I bought an apartment and am enjoying living alone. I wanted to complain about doing household chores perfectly or looking bad in public, so I've even restarted my part-time job after 10 years. My days are busy but fulfilling. Jacob, learning of my lifestyle, recently sent a ridiculous message. Hey, you must be lonely without me, right? Maybe I should visit you sometime. You've depended on me all this time. Send me some gratitude money. I blocked him for being too persistent, but he must have asked William for my address. Eventually, he showed up in a taxi in front of my apartment, loitering around, so I called the police and had him arrested. This time, it ended with just a formal complaint, but it turned out he had been loitering around Anna's apartment too. His brother was furious when he came to pick him up from the police station, under his brother's watchful eye. But Jacob is now confined at home, glued to the computer from dawn till dusk, working to pay off his debts. William, taking his father as a negative example, is diligently studying and enjoying college life. Even though we're not blood related, William is like a son to me. I want to continue watching over his growth warmly. Ladies and gentlemen gathered here today, you've come together for me, but I'm not the real bride. Then at the end of the wedding ceremony, as I declared this while it was time to read a letter to my parents, the room began to buzz. The real bride will be this lady. As I said that, the spotlight shifted to my sister. Ignoring my bewildered parents and sister, I exchanged a knowing look with my friend, who's a wedding planner. The ceremony has been sufficiently disrupted, but it's not over yet. I've let my sister have her way all this time, but now it's time for her to face the consequences. My name is Camila Davis. I'm 28 years old, and I started an e-commerce site as a hobby during my student days, which took off, and now I manage the company as its CEO. My wedding was right around the corner. The guy is Leo Garcia. He was a classmate from college, and after he confessed, we started dating and now we live together. Leo works for a company in the city and commutes by train, while I drive to work. But right now, I'm caught up in the whirlwind of wedding planning, with only 3 months to go. Leo usually gets home no earlier than 7 p.m., so I'm the one who handles the meals, since my schedule's more flexible. So on weekends, I've got Leo doing chores like tidying up our place and cleaning the bathroom. I love driving. I find any excuse to get behind the wheel, even on days off. One day, I was about to head out shopping, but to head out shopping in my car, I'm going with my best friend Hannah. We've been friends since elementary school, all the way through college. She's someone I can talk about anything with, a truly precious bestie. Today, we've decided to hit up a newly opened outlet mall. It's a bit of a drive in the next state, but we figured we'd enjoy the drive there. I head to the convenience store to meet up with Hannah. Sorry to keep you waiting. Did you wait long? Not at all. I just got here and bought myself a coffee. Do you want a coffee too, Camilla? Seeing Hannah with her coffee, I felt like having one myself, so I took her up on her offer. Thank you. Then I guess I'll go ahead and ask. Meanwhile, I'll set up the car navigation. Got it. Just with that, Hannah cheerfully headed into the convenience store. As I went to set the destination on my car navigation, I accidentally hit the history button when I tried to switch the screen. I wondered, what's this history? And there it was. Hotel Venus Rouge. Of course. I had no recollection of searching for such a place. This is my car, but Leo uses it sometimes too. I figured it must have been him, but didn't dwell on it and continued with the car navigation setup. I set our destination and headed to the outlet mall with Hannah. We took the freeway, and the drive was pleasant with great weather. As we approached an interchange, Hannah pointed outside the window and laughed. Luck. It's the Hotel Venus Rouge. What a tacky name for a hotel these days. Venus Rouge, that was the name I saw in the car navigation history. I only glanced over since I was driving, but sure enough, there was a big sign that read Hotel Venus Rouge. Yeah, really tacky. I laughed along, but the fact that the hotel's name was in the history had me concerned. After finishing shopping with Hannah, I dropped her off at her house. And some alone. I operated the car's navigation system again to check the history. Hotel Venus Rouge, proceeding with the search, brought up the location we passed today near the interstate. It definitely seems to be that hotel. That hotel, no matter how you look at it, was one of those types of hotels. Why did Leo search for that hotel? I decided to pay more attention to Leo's actions going forward. As part of that, I resolved to install a dash cam in the car. I mentioned it to Leo, and he agreed, saying, "That's fine. A lot of cars have them these days. It's good for safety." I was told, in exchange, if you're going to install it, Camila should pay for it. It's Camila's car, after all, even though it's in my name. Leo also drives it, so I insisted he'd chip in a little for the cost. The next day after work, I went straight to the dealership and had the dash cam installed. It captures both the front and back of the car as well as the interior. The maximum recording time is 5 hours, after which it overwrites the old footage. I also installed a GPS logger. This device records where the car has traveled using GPS. After Leo used the car, I checked the dash cam and GPS logger. I mainly use the car for commuting, so Leo uses it mostly on weekends. Of course, he always asks for permission in advance. As one weekend, Leo asked, "Can I use the car this Saturday?" "Sure, but where are you going?" I asked curiously, "To that shopping mall you went to the other day? A buddy of mine wants to check it out." He replied, "Oh, which friend?" "Someone I know, just a coworker who lives nearby. For Salman, perhaps?" "No way. It's a guy, bigger and more muscular than me." All right. Well, bring me back something nice, will you?" "Got it. If it's a souvenir for you, food would be good, right?" "Yeah, that would be nice. I'd love something sweet." And then came Saturday. Leo went out as planned and returned in the evening. I waited for his return and then made the excuse that I had forgotten something in the car to retrieve the memory card from the dash cam and the GPS logger. After Leo had gone to bed, I checked the contents of both the GPS logger and the memory card. The GPS logger confirmed he did go to that shopping mall. But on the way back, he took an exit at the interchange and made a detour. Zooming in on the location, it was Hotel Venus Rouge. He's totally cheating, and our wedding is next month. I can't believe this is happening. My fingers trembled as I thought this, operating the device, despite the shock. I gathered myself to check the dashcam footage. Inserting the memory card into the computer, I played the recorded content. The first thing to appear on the screen was a long-haired woman sitting in the passenger seat. Looking closely, I realized it was my sister. My sister had always been selfish with bad conduct, practically disowned by our family, and I hadn't seen her for over 10 years since high school graduation. Why were Leo and my sister going out together, even to a hotel? My mind couldn't keep up with all the questions, and I just stared at the screen dazedly. Of course, their conversation was also recorded. "You're a bad one, aren't you? Getting married next month, and here you are doing this." And with that, my sister laughed. "It's okay. I'm marrying her because she's a CEO. And she's made a fortune at a young age." Leo's voice replied, "But does that mean we'll end after you get married?" "Of course not, you're the one I want. I plan to divorce her in about half a year. Naturally, I'll make it look like it's her fault, take a hefty alimony and a share of her assets. Then I'll be with you. Really, you'll wait half a year. I'll continue this relationship in the meantime. I can't bear to be apart from you, not even for a day that makes me happy. I love you, Leo, me too. I love you. Abigail, I stopped the playback. I couldn't bear to watch anymore. Leo was cheating spectacularly so, and his mistress was my sister. Did he even realize? Moreover, it became clear that marrying me was all for my wealth, but his proposal and our birthday celebration at a seaside hotel were all just a facade. Why is this happening? Tears blurred the computer screen. The next day, I told Leo the first needed to go back to my parents' house for a while to prepare for the wedding. Leo didn't think much of it and just agreed. Perhaps for Leo my absence was a welcome relief. I told my parents that I felt a bit unsettled and needed to stay with them to calm down. They seemed to think it was just pre-wedding jitters and welcomed me back. Since my sister had been estranged from the family, I wouldn't have to see her at my parents' house. A few days later, I received a message from my best friend Hannah, thinking I could tell Hannah the truth. I told her everything. Hannah said, "Got it. I'll come over today and we'll drink the night away." Hannah may look cute, but she has quite the old man spirit in her. But I like that about her. I had told my parents I was having a last single girl party. Before long, Hannah came over arms laden with booze and snacks. "Monks, I'm borrowing Camila for the night. We might get a bit noisy, but please forgive us," she said to my mother as soon as she arrived with her usual light-hearted banter. "Oh dear, making noise is fine, but don't drink too much. Also, I made some stew, so take it with you and eat up." My mother had thoughtfully prepared some snacks for us. "Well, thank you. I was wondering what smelled so good. It's stew. Will gladly take it." "Oh, and is it alright if we invite one more friend over?" "That's fine, dear. Make it a party to remember Camilla. Thank you so much." With that, we called over another friend, Ellie. She was a high school classmate and, as it happens, a wedding planner at the venue we had booked for my wedding. In charge of our ceremony, Hannah and Ellie had also gone to the same high school and had met a few times, so now they were quite close. The three of us started the party. I showed them the dashcam footage. "Wait, I'm not sure because I've only seen her a couple of times back in high school, but isn't this person Camila's sister?" "Yes, and to top it all off, he's cheating with my sister, who's practically disowned by our family." "That's awful. Does he know she's Camila's sister?" "Regardless, it's unforgivable, and we should find a way to get back at him," Ellie said, crushing an empty beer can in her hand. She was always strong on justice, having once caught a groper in high school and turned him over to the police. She was angry as if it were her own issue, encouraged by her words of revenge. Hannah started talking. "Then let's wreck the wedding. I've got an idea." Saying that, Hannah got some paper and started writing something down. "How about it? We need Ellie's help. Please, think of it as helping Camilla." "Of course. I'm the planner for this wedding, so I can do anything. Having Ellie, the planner, on our side is a huge relief." And with that, the plan was in place. I covered the two of them with blankets as they slept off too much drinking, and even though I wasn't sure if they could hear me, I thanked them. I had drunk too much myself, but it had somehow cleared my head. The next day, I returned to Leo's place. Beached a few days after getting back. I executed our first plan. It's one evening after work. I suggested we go out to eat, met Leo at the station, and we went to a diner in my car and had dinner. Afterward, I dropped Leo off first, then parked the car in the lot, and went inside the house. Then, I acted surprised and touched in the living room. "Leo, you were planning a surprise for me with this?" "Huh?" Leo let out a strange noise, caught off guard by my sudden comment. "This is a gift for me, right? I found it in the car," I said, showing him a shopping bag from a high-end brand. The shopping bag even had the brand name written in big letters on it. I had spilled some coins in the car, and when I was picking them up from under the back seat, I found this. "Oh, Leo, you were trying to surprise me by hiding it there, weren't you? Sorry for finding it first," I said with feigned innocence, pretending to be even more delighted. Well, what is?" Leo mumbled, fumbling for words. "What? It's not a gift for me. Does that mean you have someone else to give something like this to?" "Don't be silly. There's no one for me but you, Camila." "Right. You did buy it for me, didn't you? How much was it? Like $4,000. That's a limited edition. It cost about $10,000. It was expensive, but I thought it would suit you. It was meant to be a surprise. But you found it, huh? Yeah, it looks a bit young, but I can still pull it off, right? Of course, any bag would look good on you." Camila, that's hardly a compliment, you know." "Oh, sorry. Well, I'll graciously accept it then. Thank you very much." I had to suppress a laugh when I heard his last sigh. In the video I saw at that party, Leo was being cajoled by my sister into buying her an expensive bag. And then, it showed him buying an expensive bag and hiding it under the back seat of the car. I found it and claimed it as my own. He sighed again during dinner later that night. Then a few days later, I got an unexpected call from my dad. It seems like Dad's old habits have popped up again. Out of the blue, he had bought a new car. My father's always been a car enthusiast, having owned many over the years. He said he stumbled upon a used car lot after work and found a car he'd always admired and impulsively bought it on the spot. Dad, you did that without thinking? Didn't you get an earful from Mom? A scolding is nothing to worry about. But listen, this is a model that isn't produced anymore. I always wanted this car, and I thought I'd never get another chance to own one, so I just went for it. I can't wait for it to be delivered. Really, Dad, what about the car you're currently driving? Oh, that one. I'll give it to you. It's still in good shape, right? Well, I was getting tired of my current one, so that's not too bad. Just sell that automatic car. Driving it isn't fun, right? But that's when it hit me. Alright, I've decided I'll switch cars. Thanks, Dad. Good, it's getting delivered next week, so come pick it up then. I'll have it cleaned up for you. Okay, but Dad, don't switch cars again too soon, okay? Don't say that. A man's romance can't be stopped by logic. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't help but smile. And just like that, my car was replaced a few days later. Camila, you changed cars? This one looks cooler than the last. Yeah, Dad bought a new car, so I got his hand-me-down. It's cooler than the previous one, isn't it? Oh, it's cool. It's sudden, but can I borrow it this Saturday? Sure you can. And on Saturday, Leo took the keys and left, only to come back shortly after. Hey, about that car. What's wrong? Did something happen? No, it won't move. What do you mean it won't move? You drove it just fine yesterday. Because that car, it's a manual. X in police and sire. What's the problem? Well, my license is automatic only. Ah, right. I forgot about that. It's not funny. No, I can't drive at all. It's not being able to use a car is a problem. Why is it a problem? Do you want me to drive you instead? Ah, no, that's also an issue. I mean, it's your day off. I can't ask you to drive me around. I don't mind driving, really. Nah, it's okay. I'll figure something out. Alright then. Have a good day. How's he planning to manage if he can't drive? This is exactly what I intended. The car I got from my father is a manual. I have a manual license, so it's not a problem for me, but Leo has an automatic-only license. He can't drive that car, neither technically nor legally. I knew he'd been using cars for weekly dates, so I intentionally switched to one Leo can't drive. It's my car. I can switch to whatever I want. And then, there was just 1 week left until the wedding day. I received a call that summoned me. Hello, this is Davis. Amaze Davis. Sorry to call you in like this. The person on the other end returned the greeting. No problem. So, what were the results? Well, please take a seat. I'm about to go over that with you. And with that, I was shown to a conference room. First off, regarding your request. Yes, this is a detective agency. I requested them to investigate Leo's conduct. We have secured photos and videos as evidence of Mr. Garcia's infidelity. Would you like to see them? The detective took out a laptop, inserted a USB drive, and started playing the videos. There they were. Leo and my sister arm in arm playing around, then entering a hotel. The date and time of the videos were from the Saturday before last, in the afternoon, and there were photos of them kissing, hugging, and such. Thank you. This is sufficient. I took the materials and left the office. Honestly, I knew about the infidelity, but having it laid out like this was still hard. I contacted Hannah and Ellie, and we met up at an izakaya in a private room. I secured a private room and showed them the materials I received from the detective agency. This is bad? Having such clear evidence is impressive. Be completely, hey Camila, can I borrow these photos? Yes, senor. I was planning to make a slideshow for the bride and groom, so I thought I'd include these. But with this, all that's left is the main event. Hannah raised her beer mug and toasted. Let's do this for Camila. I was moved to tears by everyone's effort on my behalf, but I held back, and then the wedding day arrived. As soon as I got to venue, the makeup and hair setting began, and regardless of my fatigue, everything proceeded as scheduled. When I saw myself in the mirror wearing the white wedding dress, a vision I had dreamed of, the thought of wearing it in such a state of mind almost brought me to tears. My mother wiped away my tears, saying, "Oh, now a bride can't cry like this. I'm sorry. These aren't those kind of tears. The ceremony ended, and the reception began. Ellie smiled at me just before we entered. Leo was in high spirits from the start, smiling all the time. I could only manage an awkward smile. The reception went off without a hitch, proceeding as planned. Then, it was time for the bride to read a letter of farewell and gratitude to her family. The room darkened, and only my parents and I were in the light. I was handed the microphone, but I didn't read the letter. I turned to face the guests and began to speak quietly. Ladies and gentlemen gathered here today, thank you so much for joining us. Normally, I would now express my farewells and thanks to my parents and leave to join the man I love. However, the unexpected turn and my speech silenced the room. Ellie gave me an okay sign from the corner of the stage. I am not the real bride. With that, the room began to buzz. The real bride is my sister, Abigail Davis. The groom told me that she is the one he truly loves. I have proof. It's my disowned sister's name. Coming up left my parents frozen with shocked expressions. It was supposed to be a moment for a touching letter, so their surprise was understandable when I mentioned my sister's name. When I mentioned my sister's name, light music played and a slideshow appeared on the screen. It showed two people walking hand in hand, kissing, and then entering a hotel in sequence. The music stopped, and the video of that conversation was played at high volume. The venue was in an uproar. What is the meaning of this? The groom needs to explain. Because amidst the shouting, I handed the microphone to a pale-faced Leo, bowed to his parents, and left the reception hall. Hannah and Ellie, who had rushed over, pulled me out as if to escape. Behind us, the commotion had become uncontrollable. Still in my dress, Ellie led me to an unused waiting room. Hannah brought my luggage and clothes, and I quickly changed and left the wedding venue. Hannah drove me home in her car, and I finally had a chance to breathe. We did it. Yes, we sure did. Despite the chaos we caused, I felt strangely exhilarated. My parents scolded me quite a bit when they got back, but since Leo was the cause, it wasn't too severe. My father took care of all the aftermath. Although the wedding was nearly finished, since the marriage itself fell apart, we had to return the gifts, but everyone understood the situation and it was resolved smoothly. Leo had a hard time. His infidelity was exposed and the wedding was in shambles. He was supposed to pay the entire cost of the wedding, but he couldn't afford it, so his parents paid in his stead. His boss had been at the wedding, so his workplace found out and it was discovered he used work email to contact my sister during work hours, which led to his demotion. He didn't get fired, but after causing such a commotion, he couldn't continue working as usual, couldn't stay in the atmosphere at the company, and ended up resigning on his own. Meanwhile, my sister, the affair partner, didn't stay with Leo after the fiasco and ended up breaking up with him. Since the engagement had gone as far as the formal exchange of betrothal gifts, I broke off the engagement and demanded alimony and other expenses from Leo. Since Leo had almost no savings left after preparing for the wedding, his parents ended up paying in his stead. Leo, lacking any particular skills, found it difficult to secure full-time employment again. He's now working part-time to repay his debts. Naturally, I also demanded compensation for my sister, the other party in the affair. It's a sad story that our first meeting in a long time was for a demand for compensation. My sister, who didn't have enough money to pay the alimony, apparently turned to her parents for help despite being disowned. My parents, furious about her part in ruining my marriage, naturally refused to help, so my sister borrowed money from some dubious place. She is now working in the nightlife industry to pay it back. After my colleagues at the company heard about the incident, they suggested I take a break, so I decided to take some time off and go on a trip to a place akin to Hawaii. Ellie had resigned from her job at the venue, feeling accountable for her involvement in the fiasco. Feeling a bit guilty, I invited her to come with me on the trip. With the alimony from Leo, I could afford the expenses. While we were dining out there, we happened to meet two guys also on vacation, and we got along well, exchanging contacts and agreeing to meet up again. They worked at the same company and apparently took trips every year. When I got back to New York and told Hannah about it, she got mad at me for not inviting her. So we decided to set up another meetup, adding one more person to the mix, making it a 3-on-3 group date. Despite all that had happened, the trip helped me recover my spirits. Life is full of surprises, and I'm ready to firmly walk towards the future. My name is Emily Johnson. I've been married for 3 years. I come from a pretty wealthy family, while my husband's family is more middle class. He seems to feel inferior because of the financial gap in our marriage and always tells me he'll cherish me for a lifetime. Thanks to him, every day is blissful. Moreover, my husband cares deeply for my parents and even suggests living with them. But I've been holding off, thinking maybe after we have kids. Then let's at least visit your folks often. They raised such a wonderful woman, after all. We need to give them some peace of mind. With such a kind and considerate husband, I often think I made the right choice in marrying him. But then, out of the blue, a totally unexpected divorce drama erupted. And it happened while we were at my parents' house. Why? Why a divorce? I'm sorry, but I want us to split up. It can't be helped. Why? What did I do wrong? Was it because I made you shop with my mom? Or because I always asked you to drive when she needed it? Or was it because we always ate her cooking when we're at her house? No, none of those are the reasons. I actually enjoyed going out with your mom. I'd go anywhere with her. Then why? Why bring this up while we're at my parents' house? Is there something about me you don't like? Well, I have my complaints. That's natural when two people live together. What then? I've always been grateful to you. All my friends say how rare it is for a guy to get along so well with his wife's parents, and I've been so thankful for that. That's nice of you, thanks. It's not just thanks. I don't understand why. There was never a sign of you cheating or anything. Did you fall for someone else? Even as I said it, I knew it didn't make sense. He was sometimes late from work, but nothing excesses. He never had to work on weekends. Overnight business trips. Those signs of another woman at all. If anything, the only thing was his phone being locked, but doesn't everyone do that? What's the reason? I was panicking, repeating why and how over and over. This kind of talk should happen at home, just the two of us. Yet, he brought it up in front of my parents. I can only imagine what they must be thinking, probably feeling sorry for me and hurting inside. But it seems I was wrong. I wanted a divorce too. Shockingly. My mom had filed for divorce as well. Wait, what's happening? My mind was beyond panicked, just blank. It felt like the life I had built was crumbling down. What's going on? In contrast to me, my father was calm. He said it with a quiet voice and an expressionless face. It can't be helped, dear. After all, you've fallen for someone else. What? Actually, I've fallen for someone too. Yikes, what a strange noise you're making. Such a silly girl. Who is she, this woman? Where's she from? She's the woman right in front of you. Hey, do you mean your mom? No way. Dad, what are saying? That can't be true. My heart's gonna stop. This is like a double affair. Well, it was an affair, but if we get married, it won't be anymore. What are you saying? What are you saying? Do you think I can accept this? Oh, come on. We're not the age to ask for permission anymore. He's an adult. I'm an adult. But there was no sign of you two having an affair. We got along quite well, actually. It's weird that you didn't notice. We always went shopping together, and after that, we always went to a hotel. That's why I always came home late, right? Huh. But when I said you were late, you'd say you went to 5 or 6 places. Yeah, including the hotel. So I was being lied to. No, it's not a lie. The number of places is right. Maybe you didn't notice because you lost love for me, didn't feel the crisis. In contrast, Ashley always got jealous when she saw us getting along. Grossed. Ashley, don't you feel sorry for Emily? I can't help it. I fell in love. Besides, I've heard a lot of complaints about Emily from Steve. As I listened, my sympathy turned into love. My head went blank, and my calm father and I were bombarded with whatever they wanted to say, eventually being pressured to sign the divorce papers. It's fine. I'll divorce. What about you, Dad? He took the pen and signed the divorce papers. Finally, let's be together now. They seemed happy for some reason. After signing the divorce papers, I felt burned out and could only say, "What is this, a nightmare?" However, my voice didn't seem to reach the two of them, who were gleefully excited. Shall we have some coffee then? Whether it's cheerful ignorance or selfishness. My mother cheerfully went to the kitchen to make coffee. Following her was Steve, my husband whom I had just divorced. This can't be happening. Why did it turn out like this? It's okay. I have a plan. My father murmured, looking down, seemingly deep in thought. Here you go, coffee. The last one I'll make for you. From now on, make it just for me. Sure, of course. Their conversation was just creepy. Is this really the man who was my husband until just moments ago, and the woman who was my mother? Well, she might still be my mother, but I can't even acknowledge her anymore. As I drank my coffee, I began to voice the doubts that were swelling inside me. Mom, you're 53, right? Why bring that up all of a sudden? And Steve is 30. Yeah, that's right. That's a 23-year age difference. So what? When you fall in love, age doesn't matter. Don't talk nonsense. That's right, a 23-year age gap is nothing. I can't believe this. Look at Ashley. She doesn't look her age, does she? She's more feminine and beautiful than you. Plus, she's got the charm of a mature woman. Oh man could resist falling for her. What a compliment. Compared to you, you're flat-chested, don't wear makeup, and are rough around the edges. You don't have a feminine bone in your body. I've never met such a beautiful woman before. I couldn't understand how he could say such things. Maybe Steve's eyesight has gotten worse. Because of my father's wealth, Ashley had the money and time to indulge in beauty treatments. Anyone would look better if they did that. But without makeup, her face is full of blemishes. It's not about being beautiful with makeup. It's about not being seen without it. Doesn't he understand that? Or is this just jealousy because my husband was taken away? You wouldn't understand. Yeah, whatever. Thanks for complimenting my mother. So when did this all start? Not long after you got married and Steve started visiting our home, right? Yeah, I asked her to go out first. At first, I really thought I couldn't do something like stealing my daughter's husband, since he was my son-in-law. But as I kept hearing him complain about you, I started to feel sympathy for him. As I cared more, that sympathy turned into love. I fell in love the first time I met her. Couldn't believe such a beautiful woman existed. I can't believe this. Stealing your daughter's husband and a husband taking his wife's mother. Unbelievable. Truth is stranger than fiction, they say, and this is exactly that. Mom, didn't you love Dad? I never thought you'd have an affair. The labbers. Oh dear, after being married so long, it's just inertia. We were just like air to each other, neither here nor there. That's horrible. Your dad probably felt the same, that's why he signed the divorce papers without a fuss. Is that true, Dad? I tried to engage my father in the conversation, but he seemed lost in thought and didn't respond. See, he doesn't even answer when you talk to him. Boring, isn't it? Put you and Dad in a big romance. To be honest, it was for the money. What? I really didn't want to hear this kind of revelation at my age. Well, your dad was originally a wealthy guy, a real rich kid. As for me, I wasn't poor, but I certainly wasn't well off. That's why I was determined to marry someone wealthy, and you managed to make that dream come true. It's effort. I researched a lot when job hunting. What did you research? I interviewed at companies where the CEO had a son around my age. That's something. I got a job at your grandfather's company. Just worked hard to get noticed, took various certifications, and got recognized. Then your grandfather offered to make me his mistress. Mistress? Don't be so shocked. That's just how rich people are. Did you accept? No way. Being a mistress is too unstable. Mistress is a profession. So, I said I wanted to date his son instead. Bold move. In exchange, I promised to take care of your grandfather for life in any way he needed. Then he introduced me to your father. I went all out and eventually won his heart. And that's how I became the wife of a CEO. But you said it was a big romance. It's similar, isn't it? I don't know. Matter of perspective. Your grandma didn't like me, opposed it, but your grandpa approved, so I could marry. It's like to shoot the general. First aim for the horse. I can only think it's awful. It's effort. You wouldn't understand being born into wealth. Or for 30 years, until your grandpa passed away. I kept my promise to him. But before he died, he said he'd leave everything to me. However, when he passed, the inheritance went only to your grandma and your dad. It felt like I was just there for show. That seems like a fair distribution to me. But when your dad dies, everything will be mine anyway. It's just a matter of waiting a little longer. You're talking about my dad, right? Yes. You're already thinking about that? Of course. Your dad's life isn't going to last much longer. What do you mean? I didn't tell you, but your dad has terminal cancer. He was given 6 months to live. Why didn't you tell me about this? Tell me about this. What would it change if I did? But I told Steve, though at my own father, and to talk about it in front of him now. I had suspected something. My strength was fading. I was in pain, something felt off. But you said it was under control with medication. What kind of medication were you giving him? Painkillers? There's not much else you can do for terminal cancer. Plus, hospitalizing him and prolonging his life would just be a hassle. Better if he just passes on quickly. How can you say that? I want the inheritance. That's so low. You're going to get old too. Who do you think will take care of you then? Nobody will care for someone like that. Don't worry. I'll take good care of Ashley. That's why I can be at ease. I was shocked by the sudden divorce, and now by the news of my father's limited time. I couldn't forgive my mother for being so blunt about it. Enough questions, shall we? Let's go to our new house, just the two of us. Get the house for just the two of you? Yes, we've already prepared our new home. They left laughing, leaving behind my father and me, feeling abandoned. Dad, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. How's your health? I knew about my condition. Then why didn't you go to the hospital sooner? A CEO can't just be hospitalized. I knew about my life expectancy. I had to prepare someone to take over the company. Me? You gave me the job because of that. Yes, I didn't trust Steve. I thought Steve, being my husband, would become the vice president and eventually take over the company. However, my father never intended to make Steve the vice president. Instead, he appointed me about 2 years ago. And now, I was almost acting as the CEO. Well, there's not much left for me to teach you. Soon after, my father was hospitalized, just for pain control. Then one day, I received a call from the hospital that he had passed away. The funeral was a big corporate affair. Despite the divorce, I informed my mother, who had been with him for so long, but she didn't shed a single tear. After the funeral, while I was at my family home, my mother and Steve came and prayed in front of Dad's memorial. Don't worry, I'll take the inheritance. Rest in peace. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Now that your dad has passed away, all the inheritance is mine. This house too. And he must own that condo, plus land here and there. It's all ours now. I won't give any of it to Emily. Do you really think that will happen? Of course. I'm his wife. It's the law that the wife inherits everything. That's what I've been waiting for. Dad knew all about it. Ama, what do you mean? He left a will for me. It detailed everything you've done. What have I done? It even described your relationship with Grandpa. What relationship? I was just taking care of him. Taking care. I never thought it included that kind of care. What are you saying? When you married Dad, you promised to take care of Grandpa's nightly needs. Dad knew and still didn't divorce you. He still loved you, saying it was a sickness. I can't believe you betrayed him so easily. I had no choice. It was the condition of our marriage. But to maintain this lifestyle, it was nothing. Dad was too kind. But I'm glad he divorced you before he died. I never imagined my own mother would be like this. What are you talking about? He don't even understand marriage. Right. I wouldn't understand. I lost my husband before I could. Anyway, I'll be the one inheriting. There's nothing you can do about it now. We'll see about that. The lawyer will be here soon, and you'll understand. A lawyer? Why is a lawyer coming? Dad was a wealthy man, and in his will, he wrote to go through a lawyer. Hey, really? That's unnecessary. It's necessary. With a greedy mother like you. If we don't do it properly, who knows what you might do? You might even try to take the company. Are those words you say to your mother? If you were really a mother, I wouldn't. But you've caused Dad so much pain, you're not my mother. What are you saying? You're made from my genes. That's what I regret the most. Say whatever you want. Isn't the lawyer here yet? I can't wait to get the inheritance distributed. Right. Day. Yeah, right. We're going to be millionaires now. We'll have a great retirement. Ashley, as to Compilation, I'm looking forward to it. Hope you get to enjoy it. Why do you have to be so mean? She's just bitter. I'm happy with Ashley, but Emily has no one. Or thing. You're both so chummy. Wonder how long that will last. You're so rude. Soon, the lawyer arrived. Ashley, long time no see. Oh, calling me by my name? That's unusual. I've always been referred to as Mrs. You are the CEO's wife, but you've been divorced for about half a year. Oh, that's right. Haven't seen you since the divorce. Yes, the CEO left a lot of things to be settled. It's what he left behind. Yes, he had a lot to say. Really? What did he possibly have to say? It couldn't have been anything important. We'll see about that. Well, just get on with it, please. And let me know how much of the inheritance I'm getting. After all, it's all going to be mine, isn't it? Huh. Of course, it's obvious, right? I was his wife. A wife inheriting is a given. Even if Emily gets something, she can just renounce her inheritance. If Emily doesn't inherit, there will be no one left to do so. Eh? What do you mean? I'm here, aren't I? Ashley, you have no right to inherit. Why don't I have a right to inherit? I should have the right to inherit. You were his wife in the past tense. Have you forgotten? Be past tense or not, a wife is a wife. Don't talk nonsense. The lawyer sighed and took out a document from his bag. This is the CEO's will. He began reading the will. It was simple but significant. First, the CEO entrusts all his assets to his daughter, Ezreal, Emily. Second, the family home is either to be sold or lived in by Emily. Why? Third, the company is to be maintained by Emily as CEO for the sake of the employees. Fourth, since the divorce was caused by the former wife. Ashley, this will be considered a demand for alimony, amounting to $1 million. What's that? What do you mean? Basically, the CEO's entire estate goes to his daughter. That's absurd. How much wealth are we talking about? Roughly $1 billion, not to mention substantial stocks. And the wife? Isn't a wife entitled to the inheritance? Normally, half would belong to the wife, but since Ashley, you're divorced, you have no right to inherit. That's ridiculous. Please pay the alimony to Emily. That's insane. He's gone. Why should I pay anything? It was claimed before his passing. You must have received a certified letter. I did receive something strange. That was probably the alimony claim. Then, what about the property division? We were divorced, so half of his property should be mine. Unfortunately, the CEO has passed away. I have no right to it. If you had claimed at the time of divorce, there might have been negotiations, but now it's too late. Oh, you Paul, I'm just paying and getting nothing? That's how it is. Wait, so Ashley is penniless? Yes, that's correct. That's ridiculous. Can something be done? No, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. No way out. There isn't. You divorced too early. Why the hell did I bother with an old hag like you? Wait, Dixed, don't call me so casually. I'm not interested in a penniless old hag. If I knew it would be like this, I wouldn't have divorced. If Emily had inherited, I would have been a millionaire. And if Emily was CEO, I could have lived a leisurely life. Steve, calm down. How can I be calm? I'm divorcing you. But we loved each other, didn't we? Love. As if. I only married you because you said you'd inherit millions. And now you're penniless. I can't stand the thought of being with a blemish-covered old hag without makeup. That's awful. Steve said that and left, abandoning Ashley. But that wasn't the end. Wait a second. Dask Mexi. You have something too. They for me. That's right. Emily and I were married. So I'll get part of the inheritance, right? You must be dreaming. You two have to pay alimony. Why me? It's obvious. The divorce was because of your affair. You owe $600,000 in alimony. Why $600,000? I was a vice president at the time of the divorce. The affair with my mother damaged my reputation. Considering my age, $600,000 is actually less than it should be. You should be grateful. I don't have that kind of money. You'll have to pay. Lawyer, please proceed with the claim against Steve. Verpactics.co? Pay CEO already? Yes, I became CEO as soon as Dad was hospitalized. The board of directors decided. I've been zero sometime. Damn it. I couldn't even become vice president. That's because Dad never trusted you. It was obvious, really. He knew you were just our money, having an affair with Mom. I won't pay. Even whenever you want, but you can't escape. You'll learn the power of a CEO. Ignoring my words. Steve stormed out of the house. Seeing this, Ashley spitefully said, that man, he should go to hell. Mom, what? You two go to hell. Such things to say. Mom was in tears, probably never expecting such words from her own daughter. Later, Steve apparently moved somewhere else, but when contacted, he arrogantly said to find him if we could. So, I asked the lawyer to garnish his wages. When a company asked why, I told them everything. Consequently, they fired him for being so irresponsible. He had to move out of his apartment because he couldn't pay the rent and ended up in a shabby place with drafts. He tried to find a job but was forced to live on part-time work. When I demanded the alimony in full, he said he couldn't bear it anymore and borrowed money from a consumer loan to pay it. Now he's desperate to pay off his debt. Mom kept asking to live with me, but I couldn't trust her after what she did. When I firmly demanded she pay the alimony, she, not knowing much about society, borrowed money for the alimony and living expenses and paid it all at once. I heard she started working part-time, but that wouldn't be enough to pay off her debt. Exactly. Now she's working at an inn. I sold our family home and am now enjoying life in a high-rise condo near the company. I don't know what kind of encounters the future holds, but I've decided to stay away from money-hungry people. Name is Amelia Moore. My husband James is a very tyrannical person. He spares no effort or expense when it comes to himself and his parents, but won't spend a dime on me, our daughter, or my parents. My husband, who is like that, has been looking at a brochure for an overseas trip. He's been gazing at this brochure for the past few days. Like going on a trip abroad? I knew. It couldn't be a family vacation. Yeah, that's right. Our daughter is getting married soon, so a trip just for the two of us might be nice. What? You think I'm going with you? No way. I knew it, yet I asked anyway. Just over 20 years of marriage, he's never taken me on a trip. Not even for a day out. When I took our child out, I had to do it secretly with my own money, so he wouldn't find out. Who are you going with? Like your mistress? What? Ridiculous. Do you think I'm that kind of man? I don't cheat. It's more like you can't. Such thoughts come to mind. I'm going with my parents? I thought it would be something like that. I just asked on purpose. My parents wanted to go on a trip abroad. Filial piety is important. He talks about filial piety, but he's never shown any to my parents. Just stay home and keep the house in order. After all, I'm the one working, while you just have a part-time job. You can't afford the luxury of a trip abroad. Is that so? I'm beyond caring now. He's just that kind of person. I simply chose the wrong partner. When are you leaving? Which tomorrow? When will you be back? It's a 5-day trip, so you'll be back in time for the wedding. That's good. Charlotte's wedding is in a week. I've mentioned this before. And yet, my husband talks about going on an overseas trip. Even now when I mention the wedding, he doesn't respond. Does he even care about his daughter? I've given up on him to the point where I can't even sigh anymore. Oh, did you withdraw money from my account? I just came from the bank. $40,000 was missing from my account. This must surely be my husband's doing. I suspected it immediately, but couldn't accuse him without proof. I didn't want to start a fight so close to the wedding. He glanced at me, but didn't respond. Hey, money's missing from my account. Do you know anything about it? I don't know. He's lying, as always. He's been lying to me throughout our marriage. He thinks I don't know, but I do. Knowing everything, I kept silent. Do you really not know? Then James burst out in anger. Your savings have nothing to do with me. Are you suggesting I stole it? What kind of woman are you? It's not that, but $40,000 is missing. And it can't just disappear unless someone withdraws it, right? How should I know? You must have used it. I wouldn't do that. It's important money. James stood up, looking displeased, and went into the bedroom. And surprised to be up surreal, I could hear him humming and making noise. Oh, he's preparing for the trip, I thought, but I couldn't provoke him further. But that money, I need it. Feeling despondent, I planned to check his luggage after he fell asleep, but instead of sleeping, once he finished packing, James said he was going to his parents' house and left with a large travel bag. Wait, we haven't finished talking about the money. I called after him, but he didn't turn back and just drove away as if escaping. What is this? Why won't he talk properly? How cruel can he be? These thoughts crossed my mind. The next day, James contacted me. I'm at the airport now. Have a safe trip would be the normal response from a wife. But I couldn't bring myself to say that about the $40,000. Don't fuss over just $40,000. But that's important. Quiet. I'm about to go on a trip abroad with my parents. Don't you think your husband won't come back if you say unnecessary things upon departure? I wished he wouldn't come back, but I can't stay silent this time. That's important money. I saved it up myself. So what? It's for my parents, then no complaints, right? So you did take it. Yes, I did. I didn't tell you because you'd nag. You should have told me yesterday. I don't like being nagged before leaving. That's just... I'll have a grand time with this $40,000. I'll even bring you back a keychain as a souvenir. Do you understand what that money is for? It must be for retirement or something. It is up to the kids to take care of their retired parents. No need to save for that. You're such a small-minded person. Why? It's that money was for Charlotte's wedding. I couldn't believe what he was saying and raised my voice in shock. He seemed surprised, too, when I mentioned our daughter's wedding. Was there any paternal feeling? But it was entirely different. Putting funds, then it's even more okay to use it. What are you talking about? What are you saying? Charlotte's wedding is far off. Such a child can't possibly get married. Bert, how do you think Charlotte is? She's not even 20 yet. She's already 26. Hey, since when? How can you be so uninterested in your own family? I just got confused. Confused? How can you make such a mistake? Quiet. I'm about to board the plane. It's not about getting on the plane right now. That's why you shouldn't use that money. Even if Charlotte is 26, she's not getting married right away, is she? Be quiet. What are you talking about? The wedding is in a week, isn't it? Don't tell me you forgot about Charlotte's wedding, do you? I never approved of her getting married. When Charlotte's boyfriend came over to ask her hand in marriage, you weren't home because you said you were going to your parents. Even though I told you it was ridiculous, you said it was fine since I was there. That happened? Yes, it did. Even though I said it was rude to the guests, you left anyway. I haven't heard about it afterward. I told you he was a very nice person. Is that so? Charlotte has been looking forward to marrying him, saving up half and half with me for a long time. That's the $40,000 you're about to splurge on. Without it, we can't pay for the wedding. Well, I didn't know about that, so I don't approve of this marriage. Why are you saying you don't approve now? Because if I approve, I have to return this money. How can I do that? This money is needed to take my parents on a trip. Filial piety is much more important than a child's wedding ceremony. That's ridiculous. Using the money saved for your daughter's wedding for filial piety. If you really want to do filial piety, you should save up yourself and go. Do you think I can save up that much money? It's your fault for not saving. What? I'm your husband. How can you talk to me like that? If you were a father, you should understand your daughter's feelings. Hearing this, Charlotte, who had been listening, finally burst into tears. Of course she would. She had been dreaming of her wedding in a week. Without this money, she wouldn't even be able to wear the wedding dress she had chosen. Her father was destroying her once-in-a-lifetime dream for his vanity. Charlotte is crying because of you. She's saying she can't have the wedding she's been preparing for. Don't you feel sorry for her? Even without a ceremony, they can be happy. There are plenty of people who have ceremonies and still get divorced. If they really want to get married, just submitting the marriage certificate is enough. How can you say such a thing? Filial piety is the most important thing. Everyone's just fixated on weddings and receptions like parrots. Think about your daughter's happiness. Aren't you considering your parents' happiness? They want to go on a trip abroad. Fulfilling that dream is a child's duty. You talk about filial piety, yet you've never done anything for my parents? Not once since we've been married have you given my parents a gift. How is that filial piety? Your parents aren't my parents. How can you say that? Execution anyway. I'm boarding the plane now. No, come back. Please return that money. Wait, I'm gonna spend all of it. James. After saying that, my husband hung up the phone. Afterward, no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't get through to him. And the wedding is in a week. The money Charlotte and I saved up for it. In an instant, our dream was shattered. It's over. It's all over. Charlotte continued to cry, but then, as if she made up her mind, she lifted her head. Mom, let's leave this house. Leave, you mean? We can't stay with such a person. You've endured enough, haven't you? You can divorce him. Big divorce. Do you still love Dad? If asked whether I love him, the answer is no. I've only endured for the sake of my daughter. Then divorce him. I can't think of him as a parent anymore. He never cares about your parents, only his own. Staying with him will only bring us misery. But if your father isn't there at the wedding, won't you feel awkward? Though may. It's more embarrassing if he's there. My boyfriend will understand if we talk to him properly. His parents will understand too. Yeah, you're right. Just a man who would squander his own daughter's wedding fund can't be considered a father. When I said this, Charlotte was already on the phone. After ending the call, she urged me to start packing. I've told my boyfriend everything. He understood, so let's move out right away. Alright, for now, we'll settle down there, and then I can look for a place to live. There's no need for that. He said we can live with him. The new house is very big. There's nothing to worry about. But to live in the house of a newlywed couple as a mother-in-law, I decided to take care of you from now on after all the hard work you've done. Let's get ready quickly. Persuaded by Charlotte, I packed and headed to our new house. It's actually isn't considering at the new house. I was amazed by its size. It's huge. I walked around the house in surprise, but it was completely different from the house where we, as office workers, had lived. Welcome, Amelia. Please feel at home, said Oliver Thompson, Charlotte's fiancé, with a kind smile. Life there was comfortable, and I spent it feeling endlessly grateful. The day my husband returned from his trip arrived. He seemed to have gone back to our old house, noticing that mine and Charlotte's belongings were gone. "Hey, I'm back." My husband called me as if nothing had changed. "Wait for me. I'll come over now." Quick-witted Oliver drove us to our old house. "Oh, welcome back. What's going on? Where are you?" "We've moved out," I bounced. "Moved out? I didn't hear anything about this." "Well, you wouldn't have. It was decided while you were on your trip. This house isn't a rental." "I know. You can have that house. Have it. It's in my name. It's my house. More importantly, why did you move without telling me?" "We couldn't stand your tyranny anymore. That's why we moved." "What would you do such a thing? Just live as you please. Like, I can't deal with someone who cares only about his parents, not his daughter's marriage." "What? Think the woman talking back to me like that?" "I don't care what you say. I've decided to divorce you." "You do as you like." "Divorce?" "Yes. Here are the papers you need. Please file for divorce." "Wait, are you?" "At Charlotte's new house. Idyllis. Moving in with a newlywed couple. Must be a tiny place." He must have thought so. I showed him dozens of photos. "What's the Charlotte's new house, your so-called tiny place?" "We so many photos. One is enough for a tiny place. I doubt you'd understand the size from just one. All these don't cover the whole house. It's that big. Gretchen, a young guy living in such a big house. You're being deceived." "No, it's not like that." "Oliver." "Oh, that's my daughter's fiancé's name." "I know that without you telling me." Oliver had been building the house even before deciding to marry. He didn't want to trouble his future spouse. Quite different from someone else I know. Even so, to build such a large house, he must be quite wealthy, right? Oliver's father is a wealthy man. He built the house saying that if his son was getting married, he would need a home. He apparently always thought about living with me one day, so there's room for me too. So it's fine for you to live alone in this house. I would feel bad towards the other party. Dad, don't worry, Mom's living with us. Oh, and about the $40,000 for the wedding. Sorry, that was my mistake. I thought it was your filial duty towards me. Everything's been taken care of by Oliver's father. Is that so? Well, that's good then. His father is so thoughtful. Unlike you, it's unforgivable. That's why, please divorce me. Don't. Just because of this, you think I'll agree to a divorce? Why not? You've hardly been home, always at your parents' house. We've practically been living separately already, so what's the problem with divorcing? No, I never intended to live separately. But that's the reality. You were never home on weekends. And on top of that, you withdrew money from your wife's account to enjoy a trip abroad with your own parents, despite being told it was important for your daughter. For your daughter, you wouldn't even listen. That was my filial duty. Do you think you can justify everything by calling it filial duty? You wouldn't understand. Emily, I know. It's better to divorce someone I can't understand, right? I won't approve of a divorce. Why not? You won't have any trouble without me, right? Oh, I would be troubled without a housekeeper. Housekeeper? The thought of me as a housekeeper? Of course. Right, a woman like. You can only be thought of as a housekeeper. How could you? I'm right to divorce you. To be treated as a housekeeper despite being your wife. I can't do this anymore. You should be grateful for having a place with me. How could you? Dad, no sir. Please divorce Mom. Sir, if you think of my mom as a housekeeper, then I will consider you a stranger. It's only natural, right? I've always thought of you as my father, but I can't tolerate it anymore. Influenced by your mother. It's normal to be filial, but to call your parent a stranger. My mother is my only parent. I will fulfill my filial duties towards her, so please feel free to divorce. Divorce is a matter between parents. It's not for a daughter like you to say. At that moment, Oliver, who had been silent until now, spoke up. It's nice to meet you. I'm Charlotte's fiancé, Retribution Oliver Thompson. Aha, so you're the man who seduced my daughter. To seduce is quite a harsh way to put it. Of existence. How could you say that? I'm a stranger, right? You still call me Dad? Oops. It's okay, leave it to me. Since you're divorcing Amelia, I won't consider you as my father-in-law. Mr. Moore, right? Wait, I have no intention of divorcing. Give my wife back. Wife? First you call her a housekeeper, then your wife. You sure are busy. What? Anyway, it seems Amelia is adamant about divorcing you, and I won't consider you as my father-in-law. So allow me to speak freely, but you took your daughter's money, right? What's that got to do with you? It's none of your business, is it? Or are you complaining that the marriage funds were taken away from you? That's not what I'm saying. Since you used your daughter's money without permission, I just wanted to let you know that it's okay to report this to the police. Pretties, what of it? What's wrong with a parent using their child's money? I've spent a lot raising her. A mere $40,000 is nothing. It doesn't work like that. Even if your family, that money was saved by your daughter and wife. But your way, not your family's. So what? It's my daughter's money. I can do whatever I want with it. Besides, we aren't even divorced yet, and I haven't approved of your marriage. Without my consent, you think you can just go ahead and get married. We can get married without your consent. You think you can be happy without a parent's approval. You said people can be happy without a wedding ceremony, right? It's the same thing. Many people are happy without parental consent. Besides, we have Amelia. She not only agrees but blesses our marriage. That woman's consent isn't enough. When not, she seems much more parental and humane than someone as selfish as you. Well, what did you say? If you keep being loud, should I call the police? My daughter's money is my money. As long as we aren't divorced, I'm your father-in-law. You should submit to me. You seem not to understand. Even if it's your daughter's money, using it without permission is embezzlement. That makes you a criminal. How would your company react if they found out? You might even get fired. Are you? Are you threatening me? No, not a threat. Just saying, if you don't agree to the divorce, I'll have to report it to the police. Embezzlement can lead to 5 years in prison or more. Do you want to go to jail? No, haha. That's just a joke. Is that so? Good to know. The wedding funds actually were offered by Amelia and Charlotte because they insisted, so we decided to split it. Honestly, the wedding fund is not a big deal for me. Yes, from now on. Amelia will live with us. I've heard about her struggles from Charlotte. We've prepared a spacious room for her. Filial piety is important, so that you don't have to worry about anything. If it's that big, let me and my parents live there too. What? That's quite a joke. You're about to become a stranger to us. I won't divorce. Who would do such a thing with bad public perception? Public perception. Yes. Divorce is not socially acceptable. If you understand that, living together with me and my parents would be more acceptable. I don't care about public perception. Staying married just for that would only lead to unhappiness. It's better for the guilty to be punished. So, I guess I'll have to report you to the police. Go to jail and cool your head, don't you think? If you do that, Charlotte will be sad. Oh, will she? Of course. What daughter would be happy if her father became a criminal? She seems happy here. She says it's natural for you to go to jail for stealing $40,000. That's nonsense. What does my wife say? She wouldn't be happy if I went to jail. I won't visit you, but get along well with everyone in prison. What a woman you are. So, I'll contact the police. Wait a minute. Will you agree to the divorce? Aye, alright, but is there anything else? I want to make amends. Hey, it's variance. I'll be troubled without a wife. Let me make amends. Bad timing for that. Amelia has probably already made up her mind about the divorce, which means she has no intention of reconciling. Just give up and file the divorce. If you don't, I'll have to report you to the police, so be prepared. The next day, my ex-husband contacted me. I've submitted the divorce papers. Is that so? That's all you have to say. Do you want me to list all the grievances? Forget it. After hanging up, my ex-husband apparently turned to his parents' house. He must have felt lonely living alone. However, his parents rejected him. And to live together with you? I can't imagine living with a son who does nothing, especially at my age. I can tolerate your visits, but living together is out of the question. Such a similar parent and child. However, my ex-husband, who never imagined his parents would refuse him, seemed quite shocked. Subsequently, he couldn't focus at work, making constant mistakes. Eventually, he was relegated to a less important position, enduring the disdain of his colleagues while clinging to his job. He ended up living alone. Being someone who never did much, his house became a mess, and he even started receiving complaints from neighbors. Despite his situation, he reached out to me for help, but I just laughed and blocked him. The wedding day arrived, and Charlotte had a grand ceremony. Though it was a wedding without her father, the groom's parents were understanding, and it went off without a hitch. They even went on an overseas honeymoon, bringing back unique souvenirs. Nowadays, I'm living peacefully and leisurely by my daughter's side. I need a teenage bride. I'm about to start looking for a wife, so let's break up. Suddenly, I was holding, what do you mean I hadn't expected him to bring up breaking up, especially not in such a cheerful tone after we hadn't seen each other for a while. And he'd even taken me to this fancy restaurant. Come on, you're in your 30s. Great, I just think I prefer a younger woman if I'm going to get married plus long distance. Just isn't for me. Flushed with alcohol, Michael casually said it as if he was just stepping out to the convenience store. What is this, some kind of joke? The words got stuck in my throat. But Michael, you told me to wait. I remembered the words Michael once said to me, I'll definitely marry you. So wait for me, and tears welled up in my eyes. I could hear the sound of the path to my happiness crumbling before me. My name is Julie Johnson. I'm turning 32 this year. I work at a fashion company, a dream job for me since my youth. And I'm the manager of one of the stores. Every day, I'm busy recommending the perfect clothes to our customers. Many customers prefer not to be approached in the store. But I still try to increase our profits by engaging them in conversation. Now the store I manage boasts the highest sales in the country. Julie, you're so lucky. You're good at your job and have a boyfriend of 10 years. Your future is secure, a colleague said to me enviously on our way home from a manager training. At the headquarters, indeed, I have a boyfriend of 10 years, Michael Taylor. He works at a major insurance company. Michael and I met in our first year of college and started dating in our senior year. I always thought it was a one-sided crush until he unexpectedly confessed to me. I remember being so happy that I cried since then. We've spent 10 years together as a couple, but 3 years ago in the spring, Michael was transferred to Chicago by his company. I was sad, but it was a promotion, so I happily saw him off to Chicago. Opposite to my feelings, Michael seemed excited about his promotion and left for Chicago with high spirits. Looking back, I should have expressed my feelings more honestly then and done everything to keep him here. But it's too late for regrets. After Michael's transfer, as expected, I felt very lonely at the age of 29. Many of my friends from college and work were getting married. Some were even starting to have children and were busy with parenting. I felt left behind and a bit anxious. I wanted to contact Michael every night, but managed to hold back, calling him about once every 3 days. Maybe sensing my feelings, Michael came back to New York for my 30th birthday and threw a grand celebration. He took me to the fanciest hotel in town and gave me a necklace from my favorite jewelry brand. I was so happy. Julie, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but I'm sure I want to marry you. Right now, my career is really taking off, and I'm enjoying it. So, I might have to make you wait a bit longer, but I promise we'll spend our lives together. Michael said, smiling brightly like a comic book hero, showing off his charming dimples. Thank you. Yeah, I'll wait. I can't imagine being with anyone but you. So I'll keep waiting. Good luck with your work. I always wanted to be a cute, demure girlfriend in front of Michael. So, I suppressed my desire to get married soon and respected his wishes. Michael seemed satisfied with my response and drank several beers. Our faces flushed. We looked into each other's eyes, reaffirming our feelings for each other. While working in New York, I always thought about Michael, who told me to wait for him. I was asked out to dinner and even confessed to by male colleagues and supervisors. Some men insisted on dating even if marriage wasn't on the table, but I steadfastly turned down any man who approached me, just with a boyfriend like Michael whom I'd promised a future. I couldn't even consider a casual relationship with another man. I've loved Michael for so many years. My feelings weren't going to shift to someone else. Like a loyal dog, I kept waiting for my master. As my peers rushed into marriages, invitations to friends and colleagues' weddings increased. It's time. I imagined myself in a wedding dress next to Michael, longing to marry him soon. It had been nearly 3 years since our long-distance relationship began. Just lately, Michael was either really busy or my calls went to voicemail. Initially, I called every 3 days. Then it dwindled to once a week, then once a month. Even my texts went unread. There was a time when he'd reply within 30 minutes, but now it could take days. I tried not to worry, thinking he was just busy, but not hearing from him even on our anniversary was strange. I didn't want to nag Michael about our dwindling communication, but today was our 10th anniversary. Feeling lonely, I called him as the date changed. "Hey, Michael," I said when it seemed like he answered, but I didn't hear anything from his side. Maybe a bad signal. I tried again, "Hello." Then I heard a faint woman's voice in the background. It wasn't clear, and I couldn't tell if it was a conversation. Listening intently, I suddenly heard a woman's indiscreet voice. Shocked, I quickly hung up. "What was that?" watching a movie at home, got too absorbed, and forgot to call me. The phone must have accidentally connected. It had to be. I convinced myself of this. The power of self-suggestion is incredible. I managed to convince myself that the voice I heard during my call with Michael was just a mistake. The next day, surprisingly, Michael called. Sorry about yesterday. I had to work late and couldn't call. It was our 10-year anniversary, wasn't it? I'm sorry it's late, but thanks for these 10 years. Julie, you're the best woman for me. I could picture him apologizing over the phone, but him quickly apologizing and reassuring me reminded me of how wonderful he is. No, it's okay. You were busy, right? I'm sorry for calling so many times. I'm really happy to be your girlfriend. Thank you. Love is indeed blind. Just hearing from Michael made me forget all about the previous night's call. Thanks to you two. By the way, you called yesterday, right? I was asleep, and I think I accidentally answered the call with my arm. Did you hear anything strange? I was surprised when Michael brought up yesterday's phone call. Instantly, the sound of the woman's voice came to mind. But by that time, I had convinced myself it was my misunderstanding, so I replied, no, nothing special. Okay, that's good then. Julie, I'm really sorry for always making you wait. I love you. It's that. Michael hung up the phone. Michael's really working hard. The loneliness of our long-distance relationship wasn't just hard on me. Michael must also want to talk and see me more. But right now, his career is at a crucial phase. I don't want to be a burden on him. I waited, dreaming like a young girl, for Michael's work to go well so he could come to me for marriage in the best way possible. The week of your birthday. I've got some time off. I'll be coming back to New York, so let's go out for dinner, Michael said, making me overjoyed a week before my 32nd birthday. Really? I'm so happy. I'm looking forward to it. Busy Michael was making time to see me. With the recent lack of communication, my excitement was at its peak. Plus, Michael had recently been promoted to sales manager. As with his promotion, maybe he was going to propose. I couldn't contain the excitement in my heart. Like on the upcoming Wednesday, which luckily was my day off. I dressed up and waited for Michael. But when I greeted him at the station, arriving by train, seeing my long-distance lover after so long made me smile uncontrollably. We spent the day like we used to when we weren't long-distance, watching a movie and visiting a newly opened mall. Michael seemed different from before, responding to my excited chatter with a flat, "Oh, that's fun. Are you feeling okay? You seem off." "No, just not used to being back, that's all," I said. Strange, I laughed, and Michael finally cracked a smile. We continued our date normally and decided to have dinner as it got dark. Actually, I've made a reservation at a hotel nearby. Really? Yeah, let's go there. Okay. Michael took me to a renowned, high-end hotel restaurant everyone knows. I entered, a bit nervous because I was in casual clothes. But the waitress greeted us without any disdain. Table for two under Mr. Taylor right this way. There was even a reservation card with Mr. Taylor on our table, and I glanced at Michael, thinking how well prepared he was. This place is nice, isn't it? It was featured on TV recently, so I thought I'd make a reservation. Yes, it's lovely. I'm starving. Michael smiled at my comment and quickly ordered our first drink. The food was elegant and delicious, and I felt my face light up with joy. Fish topics. Such a wonderful dinner he planned. Is he going to propose? My hopes soared even higher. So when we were almost done with our meal and the main dish arrived, I couldn't believe the words that came out of Michael's mouth. You know, I've been wanting to talk to you about something for a while. What is it? Michael had his fourth drink and was completely drunk. He glanced around quickly, making sure no one else was around. Then, he took a deep breath. I want a teen bride. I'm gonna start looking for one, so let's break up. I nearly dropped my wine glass in shock at Michael's sudden declaration. What do you mean? I had never expected him to bring up a breakup so cheerfully, especially after he had taken me to a fancy restaurant for a long-awaited reunion. I had even thought he might propose. Best for me, who had been expecting such a proposal. This was a bolt from the blue. 'Cause you know, you're in your 30s, right? I just think I'd prefer a younger girl if I'm getting married. Plus, long distance is just not for me. Michael, his face flushed with alcohol, spoke as if he was saying something as casual as I am just popping out to the store. Is this some kind of prank? The word stuck in my throat. I remembered Michael's words from the past. Wait for me. I'll definitely marry you, and my eyes filled with tears. I remembered the days I spent waiting for Michael, the man I loved. It was never easy. I had wanted to end our long-distance relationship immediately, but I had waited because I wanted to marry Michael. This has to be a joke, right? I heard the sound of the path to my happiness crumbling. Sorry, but I've made up my mind. I've been keeping Natalie waiting for too long. So today, finally telling you how I really feel has cleared my mind. Be different to my sadness. Michael spoke with a sense of relief. Now that he had accomplished his goal, Natalie must be Michael's affair partner. That's right. The voice I heard from Michael's phone call the other day must have been Natalie's. Thinking about it made me incredibly frustrated. Michael, you told me to wait, and now you're just going to leave me that easily. I felt embarrassed that I had clung to such a man, but at that moment, the reality was too shocking, and I couldn't help but think if there was any way to make Michael stay. People change their minds. You know, getting married in your 30s, you can't have many kids, right? That's why Natalie, being only 19, is so exciting for the future. Plus, teenage skin is beautiful. The reaction's so genuine and cute. I have to go back now to prepare for my marriage with Natalie, so I'll settle the bill. Thanks for everything. Julie, bye. Before I could even accept it, Michael hurriedly left the hotel as if escaping. I was so overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events that I just sat there dazed for a while. Are you okay, ma'am? The waitress came over and snapped me back to reality. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry if I caused any disturbance. Not at all. I wondered why I was the one apologizing as I left the restaurant with shaky steps. The shock was too much, and I couldn't think straight. That day, perhaps also because of the alcohol, I stumbled onto the train and made my way home. Once I entered my room, I finally broke down and cried uncontrollably. It was unforgivable. But Michael had already gone back to Chicago, and there was no more involvement with him. Spending any more time thinking about Michael, who had betrayed me, seemed pointless, yet my heart still harbored feelings for him. The thought of him still hurt, even though I knew better. It would be a while before I could think about love again. I was already 32. Just like Michael said, in the dating world, younger people are more sought after. I couldn't help but feel that no one would need someone like me anymore. For now, I decided to just go to bed. I could think about tomorrow when it came. That was the only way I could keep my sanity. In the following days, I focused solely on my work. My best coworker, concerned about me, invited me to karaoke. Singing at the top of my lungs seemed to ease my feelings a bit, and I couldn't be more grateful to them. Working at the store, I sometimes felt down seeing couples or married customers, but I knew I couldn't keep looking down or happiness would slip away. I tried my best to stay positive. At first, it was just a facade, but gradually my spirits genuinely lifted and I found joy in my work again. During this time, I noticed a male customer who frequently visited my store. "You come here often?" I said to him. He blushed slightly and replied cheerfully, "Yes, I find myself drawn here." I was pleased that he liked the clothes I adored, but then he shyly looked down and said, "Actually, it's the salesperson I'm interested in." I couldn't help but ask eerily, thinking I might have misheard. But he looked up confidently and asked, "Can I come to see you again?" My heart raced at his words. "Yes, please do visit again." I'd be lying if I said I wasn't happy. Actually, I was thrilled. But considering our customer-salesperson relationship, I restrained my emotions and responded calmly. After receiving my answer, he smiled happily and said, "Then I'll come again before leaving." I found myself excitedly wondering when this man, whose name I didn't even know, would visit next. 3 years had passed since then. That you know. I've quit my job at the apparel company and opened my own store. The store occupied the first floor, with my home on the second and third floors. Thanks to introducing the store creation process on video sharing sites before opening, many customers visited my shop. Most of them were young, so I promoted on social media targeting young people, making my store popular enough to become a topic of conversation. I even got media coverage from a TV station. It was hard to believe this was all happening to me, but every time my store was mentioned on TV or social media, I savored the fact that it was gaining popularity. I was living fulfilling days, but one Sunday night a call came to my store. I was busy tallying the week's sales and thought not to answer the phone since it was past closing time. However, the phone rang again after a brief pause. This happened about 5 times. Finally, after finishing the calculations, I picked up the receiver. "Hello, this is Julie's," I said, using the store name I derived from my own. There was a moment of silence on the other end. thinking it might be a wrong or prank call. I said hello again. Then I heard a familiar voice. Hey, long time no see. It was none other than Michael's voice. Why was he calling my store? I hadn't told Michael about opening it. In fact, I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Feeling my whole body rejecting Michael, I deliberately said, "Who are you again?" But a dumbfounded voice came from the other end. It's me, Michael. We were together for 10 years. You can't have forgotten me. His repetition of Milm made me want to point out it sounded like a scam. So, what do you want? I had nothing to talk about with Michael and wanted to hang up as soon as possible. That's right. Julie, I kept you waiting. Looks like I can finally marry you. You've been waiting all this time, right? You always said you wanted to marry me. I've broken up with Natalie, so I guess I can marry you now. Michael's voice, laced with a sneer, sounded dark and detached from reality. I was disgusted by his words and tone, feeling a chill run down my spine. There, man, Michael. Why was he bringing this up now? And his condescending attitude of doing me a favor by marrying me was unacceptable. How dare he propose marriage to me after all this time? What are you talking about? Why should I have to marry someone like you? I would never marry a man like you. I remembered how heartbroken and frustrated I was when Michael broke up with me. This was my chance to get back at him. What did you say? Do you realize what you're saying? I'm offering to marry you, even though you're in your mid-30s. There's no reason for you to refuse. His shouting was grating and loud in my ears. Are you even listening to yourself? Why should I marry a man who dumped me for such a terrible reason? I have no intention of ever dealing with a man like you again. I snapped back, and there was a moment of silence from Michael on the other end. Just then, a person came downstairs from the second-floor living quarters to the store. He must have heard my voice. It's that person. Steve, my husband, looked at me with concern. Steve was the man I met 3 years ago when I was managing the store. The male customer who said he was interested in the salesperson. Steve visited my store several times as he had promised. When Steve confessed he had feelings for me, I was torn about what to do. After all, he was a customer. Could a store manager like me, let alone an employee, really harbor personal feelings for a customer? I was confused. I consulted a coworker who encouraged me with a nonchalant tone. If you're really into him, why not? Knowing how broken I was after being dumped by Michael, my coworker must have wanted to cheer me up. So, I started seeing Steve outside of work, eventually leading to a relationship, and we got married a year ago. Now he's a staff member in my store helping me run it. He's truly a kind and reliable husband. You see, actually, I covered the phone receiver and told Steve about Michael's relentless calls. Steve looked surprised, then asked me to hand him the phone. I wonder what he planned to say. After I gave him the phone, Steve switched it to speaker and started talking. Hello, this is Steve Smith. Michael Taylor, isn't it? Long time no see. Steve greeted him politely. Just a long time no see. Who are you? Michael sounded confused. I didn't understand why Steve would say long time no see to Michael either. Sensing our confusion, Steve cleared his throat and began to explain. Mr. Michael Taylor, have you forgotten about me? 2 years ago, you were so eager to sell me insurance. But it was so expensive. I had to decline, curious about the high cost. I researched and found your company's website and reviews, which mentioned affordable and good value insurance. That's odd. I saw it. So, I contacted them, and it turned out you were quoting inflated insurance costs. What, you're that guy from back then? Hearing Steve's story seemed to trigger a memory for Michael, who clearly started to panic on the other end of the line. I was puzzled, not understanding what Steve was talking about. Then Steve elaborately explained the incident between him and Michael. When he tried to sell me insurance, Betzer Company, upon learning he was engaging in fraud, investigated his past sales records. It turned out he wasn't just deceiving me. He had been telling various people exaggerated costs and pocketing the extra money. Worse still, he targeted housewives and elderly people who were not savvy about insurance. Essentially, he was collecting false insurance fees from customers and stealing that money. Naturally, his actions led to his dismissal from the company. Steve's revelation was shocking to me. Michael, who seemed so dedicated to his job, was actually committing fraud, deceiving Steve and others for money. It's because of you that I ended up like this. Natalie was fooling around with another man and even had a child. As soon as I lost my job, she left me for him. After all he did for her, And now I hear Julie is doing well with her own store, even on TV. I thought marrying her would secure my future. Please, Julie, marry me. You're the only one left for me. You're the only one who truly loved me. I'm sorry for what happened 3 years ago. I promised to make you happy. So, I felt nauseous hearing Michael's pleas. He got fired for his own fraudulent actions. Besides, Natalie's affairs have nothing to do with me or Steve. She was probably flaky from the start. Michael always thought I still loved him, which angered me the most. I looked at Steve next to me and nodded firmly. Steve was the only one I needed in my life. I wanted nothing to do with Michael, the man who abandoned me. Punching my hot palms, I unleashed all my anger into the phone. Are you stupid? My voice was so cold, it surprised even me. I could imagine Michael on the other end, visibly shuddering. What do you mean, stupid? Typically, the short-tempered Michael immediately got angry, barking back in a pathetic manner. I was ready to teach Michael a harsh lesson about reality. The stupid thing is that you think I still love you. Who do you think you are? I'm married to Steve now. I'm happy. The world has turned upside down compared to when I was with you, enduring a long-distance relationship, waiting for you, and then being discarded. Thanks to Steve, I've gradually forgotten about you. And now what? You probably called me after seeing me on TV, thinking I have money, right? It's so obvious. Oh, you don't love me. You just show up when it's convenient after dumping me like that. And you think I'd have feelings for you. What a delusional jerk. You've lost your job, your woman, and now this. It suits you, a life like yours. You get it, right? I have absolutely no lingering feelings for you. So don't bother me anymore. If you do, I'll report you to the police. Goodbye. As I rapidly unleashed all my anger, Michael protested, "Hey, wait a second." But I ignored his voice and hung up. For Michael's pathetic voice, which had echoed throughout the store, fell silent as if it had never been there. I relaxed the tense strings of my nerves, leaning into Steve. I'm sorry. I got a bit carried away. No, it's understandable. Anyone would be confused by such a call. Julie, thank you again for choosing me. I will make you happy. I promise. Steve's kind words seeped into my weary heart like a vitamin boost. I'm so glad I married this man. Ironically, it's because of my relationship with Michael that I can feel this way. I too want to make Steve happy for the rest of his life. Several days passed since then, and Michael stopped calling the store. But instead, I noticed a suspicious figure lurking around the shop several times. Dressed in black with sunglasses and a mask, a classic suspicious look. I didn't hesitate to call the police. It turned out to be Michael, trying to forcibly take me back. Hey, wait. I know that woman. I just want to talk to her. Yeah, right. We'll listen to your story at the station. Damn it. Michael, caught red-handed, was dragged away by the police, his excuses falling on deaf ears. I later learned about Michael's fate from a college friend who was still in touch with him. After being thoroughly interrogated by the police, Michael was fined several $1,000s, not able to pay because he was jobless. He had to borrow money. On top of that, he had debts from the money he spent on his ex-wife, Natalie, with no one willing to hire him, even for part-time work, due to his fraud at his previous company. He had to resort to menial jobs, earning just enough for pocket money, but nowhere near enough to pay off his debts. The interest kept accumulating, and he soon couldn't even afford his rent, forcing him to look for live-in work. However, failing repeatedly in interviews, Michael ended up living in a park. His parents, who once hoped he would marry me, had given up on him after he left me for a younger woman. It seems that Michael's parents had always hoped he would marry me, but they gave up on him after he left me for a younger woman. It's all a result of his own actions. Siblings can Peter soft and can't imagining during the wind, rain, heat, and cold while living in a park is pitiful, but it seems fitting for what he brought upon himself. On the other hand, I recently discovered I'm pregnant with our first child. Despite my age, Steve and I were overjoyed, jumping around with excitement. I won't be able to work at the store for a while, but Steve reassured me, leave it to me. Having such a reliable employee and husband, I feel incredibly happy. I want to continue living this bright and joyous life, cherishing this certain happiness.